Plan Commission public hearing and regular meeting to order for Tuesday, November 8th, 2022. Item number 2 on the agenda is roll call, starting on my right.
Weisinger here.
Baker.
Goldman.
Jamadi here.
Excused are Commissioners Janzak and Williams. Also present is Town Administrator Jamie Gebert, Town Zoning Administrator Emily Zeddies, and Town Attorney Nick Flanagan. Number 3 is to certify the posting of the meeting. Emily?
The agenda for the November 8th Plan Commission meeting was posted at the following locations on October 25th, 2022. Rome Municipal Building at 2:27 p.m., Quick Trip at 2:41 p.m., Yakuza Port Edward State Bank at 2:47 p.m., email to the Wisconsin Daily Tribune at 2:32 p.m., email to the town website at 2:35 p.m., and the legal notice was printed in the Wisconsin Daily Tribune on October 25th and November 1st.
Thank you. Item number 4 is to approve the agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
Motion by Jerry, second by Dan, to approve the agenda as presented. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 5 is the citizen comment portion of the agenda. The first portion, Emily, Jamie, do we have any cards?
I've not received any.
Okay. And the second part, 5A, I think Jamie explained to all of you, is that we will take comment from the public on an agenda item as it's called by the chair, but not during the citizen comment portion. Please note that once the commission begins discussion on an agenda item, no further comment will be allowed from the public on that issue. Next section is no action is contemplated except possible referral to a future agenda. Item number 6 are information updates, current correspondence, current events, and announcements. Who has anything to present?
Slice of Heaven will be repainting. It'll be this antelope color right here. It'll be essentially a little refresh color on the outside of their building.
Okay, for those of you that are watching at home, it's gonna be an antelope colored for Slice of Heaven, which is the bakery in the Rome Town Center that used to be Geiger Real Estate Office and Stagecoach Restaurant. Anything else?
Yes, on Friday at 11:11 a.m., which is Veterans Day, there'll be service at the Spring Branch Cemetery on County Highway D. So if you want to attend, the Veterans Post here will be putting that on with the American Legion Auxiliary.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Item number 7A, or 7 is to open a public hearing. 7A, consideration of the proposed zoning map amendment from FR Forest and Outdoor Recreation to R1 Single Family Residence District relating to the properties owned by TNS Land Investments, described as follows: parcel numbers 30-631 and 30-632. All parcels also described as part of Section 7, Town 20 North, Range 6 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin. Total acres 79. Emily?
Okay, so I gave you guys handouts of this map and a list of names. Those names were given to me as opposed. It was at the bottom of your stack of papers. Those property owners are opposed to an R1 zoning district. Some of them would be open to an R4 zoning district. I also have one other letter from a resident, and I will read that now. In response to your letter dated November 8th, 2022, in consideration of the proposed zoning map amendment from FR Forest and Recreation to R1 Single Family Residence District relating to the properties owned by TNS Land Investments, described as followed. Parcel numbers 30-361 or 631 and 30-632. All parcels also described as Section 7, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin. From my understanding, this is the second attempt by the owners of TNS Land Investments to push through zoning changes to said properties so they may undertake clearing and construction projects of these said lands. It is also my understanding that the Planning Commission for the Town of Rome is doing everything within their power to work with this company to increase its tax base. But my question to the Planning Commission is, who is looking out for the current owners of the Lake Arrowhead Association who currently live next to this purposed construction site? the homeowners who have funded many of this city's projects to date with their taxes, the same homeowners who also paid association fees to maintain certain standards for their community. Standards that this contractor does not have to follow once it is rezoned. From my understanding, the city is not obliged to rezone this property from forest and recreation for any new owner who only bought this property knowing full well its classification. Therefore, I recommend that the city does not reclassify parcel numbers 3631 and 3632 for the company that is only looking to destroy the natural beauty of these woods, of these said woods, to now build storage units.
That's where I get it wrong.
And so it is a preliminary plat for 25 homes, just to clarify.
And ladies and gentlemen, we do allow public comment at a point in time. Please remember, these meetings are filmed and they are mic'd, and so the mic will pick up background noise and conversations that are held into them, okay?
So there were 18 letters sent to property owners within 200 feet of this affected property. The zoning change is from forest and recreation to single family residence district, as well as a comprehensive plan amendment from forestry to residential. And then I provided the R1 zoning district permitted uses in the packet. So this agenda item is for the rezone, not for the preliminary plat. But the preliminary plat, just to clarify, the proposed use of this land is to create a subdivision with 25 lots. And the lot sizes range from 1.5 acres to 20 acres. I say 20 acres, 10 acres, with, at one point they communicated that, there might be interest in going bigger, but the preliminary plat is a max, 9.66 acres for one lot size.
Emily, can I ask the question, the map that was provided with the addresses, so the names that are on that map are not at all associated with the addresses that were provided? So if your name is appearing on this map, that doesn't mean that you're opposed to the rezoning, it's just the way that the map printed.
That is true. This looks like it's off a hunting app, and most of these names are not on the list of names provided.
And who provided the map of the list of names?
Denise Mazinski.
For the record though, Emily, we should say that at our last meeting, that's why this came back, is because, just so those folks are enlightened, we did discuss it at length, that the district that was originally presented to the plan commission, we did have people speak up that they were not in favor of this, and I myself had been contacted. I don't know about any of the other commissioners. So we were, concerned with the zoning at that time. So we did question other zoning, other districts that could possibly be used. We discussed manufactured homes, and you clarified for us, which is in our minutes, what type of manufactured homes, what that meant, which is why we sent this back and you had discussion, and why this is coming back to us tonight. So for clarification and for the record, for the person that wrote us this evening, we can let them know that's why it's here for our, for us again.
We tabled it.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That's a good clarification.
Yes, we tabled it so we could have additional discussion. And now, with that being said, it's interesting that it comes back at R4.
R1.
It's coming back as R1, but they're requesting R4, so I just wanted,
Oh,
The
the
folks
letter's
in that
requesting
letter.
R4, yeah.
right, but now they're requesting R1 and no further discussion about R2, and that was gonna be some of my questions later on this evening, so.
Somebody from TNS wanna come up and speak?
Just make sure that, yep, great.
Can you hear me?
Sure.
All right. How's everybody doing? Good. I guess we, after our last meeting, the concerns with the the R2. So we talked about it and we decided to not raise any commotion, that we'd be willing to do the R1, and that's what we proposed. So that's why we're here tonight, to discuss, you know, the R1 situation where it's a little bit different than the R2.
Okay. Did we wanna do all of our questions now, or did you wanna wait for the second?
So this is for the rezone, so if you have questions on the rezone, it would be appropriate to do now.
Okay, thank you, Emily, for the clarification. Okay, so why, I mean, we did talk, I thought we were gonna get more clarification on R2, because there were some questions I had about that. And why didn't exactly the R2 worked out, and now going to R1 versus like, say, an R1C? You know, that there's some additional advantages maybe to R1C, because we had discussed some issues at the last meeting that maybe the manufacturer's homes would work based on the lot sizes. Why the sudden change right to R1? Can you share with us how you came to that conclusion?
So I provided him with a document kind of encompassing all of the concerns that were brought up at the previous meeting. There were mixed concerns with manufactured homes, some opposed, some not. So, and then camping, which is permitted in all residential districts. And at the end of the last discussion regarding this rezone, I think it was asked to focus on R1 or R4, so he came back with an R1 proposal.
Okay, cause I could see where the advantage would be where this parcel is, having looked at our maps and things and being so close to the Rome Town Center, some advantage to, cause I did have a call, I had discussed with Emily, giving us some other housing opportunities in that area, and I saw some advantages to that, because it gives us other housing choices, being close to the Rome Town Center with walkability, and other transportation options. You're putting in roads, which is great for the town, and then people could get to that part of our town. So I saw that being a real advantage, so I just going to the R1 now limits us again, as far as choices.
Right.
So, and then the other thing that's being missed here is that one of the concerns that came up with the people that are right behind there that are currently putting in homes, they're putting in $300,000 plus homes, and with camping being an issue, one of the questions that did come up, and it was in our minutes, is the fact that, the camping that was being allowed with those expensive $300,000+ homes going in, right there in the Lake Arrowhead, which has HOA. And covenants, which are pretty, they're enforced, let's just say that, pretty strictly enforced. So it did say that, in our minutes, that you weren't opposed per se to having HOA or some type of covenants, even though you're not necessarily building the homes, but having that on the plat map when you start selling those lots.
Right, we discussed if we would stick with R2, that we would consider doing some buffer zones and things like that. But now, since we're not doing R2, we're R1, and that's what we're going after. So, because I know the property to the north just sold, and they changed it into, I think R4, correct?
Yep.
And was there any buffers given to them that they had to do this?
But those are 10-acre lots.
That, I'm just asking, you know, if that was what the board made them do or not. I guess I'm not sure.
Well, so here's my concern. We might as well just jump right into it. There's a subcommittee to the Plan Commission that's been spending a lot of time over the past few months, actually probably over a year at this point. I don't know.
9 months.
I was like, it just
Yeah.
feels,
And we're going through our complete comprehensive plan, which we're required to do legally from time to time, and looking at future land use maps, right? And the way the conversation has largely gone is that we're really not expecting to have any high density developments from this point forward in the town. So if I look at our current future land use map, that property is currently zoned, forestry and outdoor recreation. The future land use map says forestry. And we've gotten ourselves in trouble over the years going against what our future land use map says. And the conversation right now is leaning towards buffering all of our high density developments, which would include the Arrowhead subdivision right there, with rural residential. So R4, R5. So this kinda doesn't go in alignment with what the thinking is on that subcommittee right now in terms of controlling future development in the town. Density specifically, so. That's my concerns with the whole plan being presented here.
I get your concern, I guess, you know, we're just going off of what you supply us with to choose, and that's why we're here, you know, to do we got out of the R2 because you were concerned about the mobile home factor last meeting, correct? I think that was your concern more so. So now we're switching gears. Okay, we'll try to make this work if that's what we gotta do. We're gonna work with you. I mean, we're not gonna say no to everything, but now we're just back to R1, I'm sorry, R1 or R4, and we applied for R1, correct? Yeah, because to go to R4, we already went through the procedure to lay out the subdivision, you know, with an outside contractor to do this. Now we got cost if we gotta switch everything to R4 to redevelop all our lot sizes and everything, where there's already cost that I would have to change to do this.
What's the minimum acreage on
5.
5?
R4 is 5 acres.
R1 is 1 acre.
And our smallest lots, I think, are 1.6, all the way up to almost 10. So we got a variety of different sizes. It's not like we're doing 1 acre lots.
I mean, if we take the comments from the folks that are directly south of this proposed development into consideration, I think their biggest concern is gonna be kinda your east end here, cause the rest are large lot sizes. You're not gonna have density. That's gonna be more in line naturally with an R4, R5 type development. So is there something you can do on your south end here that could address those concerns?
Across 13th Avenue.
Well,
You said east or south?
I think you mean the,
I think
am I
southeast.
oriented wrong here?
No, I think you got it right.
Southeast, yeah.
Or you could say south of the potential future Timberline court.
Yeah, it's basically 4 lots that I think he's referring to.
And 2 of those lots are the bigger ones, to the, we're gonna say the southwest.
Yeah,
of
maybe
the 40.
an
So
almost-
only a couple lots, you're
Yeah.
saying?
Maybe an almost 3 acre lot in the corner there, probably not a big deal, but the other 1, 2, 3 that would buffer the existing development being less than 2 acres probably would be good if we could do something there to lower the density to make it more in line with the intent of what would be an R4 type development.
I
I'm
guess
throwing that
that's-
out as an
yeah.
idea. Obviously, others are allowed to comment. Don't take what I say as gospel, but just trying to see if there's something that would strike a balance with what we aspire to achieve here and the concerns that are in front of us.
I think looking at location and surrounding, zoning districts is beneficial as well, with Rome Town Center on one side, R1 on the west side, LD on the south. It is surrounded more with a dense development than the R4 to the north, just to make a note with it, with surrounding development.
Can you say that again?
yeah, like,
So
this,
so those 80 acres are surrounded to the west of it is R1 zoning.
Yep.
To the south is Lake District.
Yep.
So far it's all minimum lot size of 1 acre. And then to the east side is Rome Town Center, which is where our downtown main area of town is gonna be located. And I just wanted to make that note, so we know the surrounding, zoning districts. And then to the north is, R4 with a minimum lot size of 5 acres.
so
And
you're
that is
saying,
the lot sizes.
so you're saying the two largest lots are closest to the side where the Rome Town Center is?
The
No, you
largest
got it
lots
backwards
are
there. I have it
closest
backwards.
to, I'd say some of the largest lots are closest
turn
to
around.
Lake District,
Thank you.
with that, none of them are under 1.5, well, none of them, yeah, they're
Oh, I
all
got
above
it.
that 1.5, nearing 2. Yeah.
Now I've got it. I had it, it was my fault, Emily, thank you.
I was just clarifying.
No, but
I
no,
don't think-
it makes sense though.
going back to what Supervisor Coleman was suggesting, if a potential was to create lots 1, 2, and 3 into 2 lots, so those would be larger lots, and potentially readjust 11, 12, and 19, would that be a
Shift some
consideration? So those would be larger size lots that would be adjacent to,
I don't even know if you'd have to include lot 3, if you just included lot 1 and 2 together. And then possibly did something with, 11 and 12.
Yeah, scooch the lot line over,
I think that
to
would,
make them all
and I don't know
around
how that
2
falls
acres.
into your plans for, the development, but I think by addressing those 4 different lots and maybe combining them into 2 instead of 4 might create an atmosphere that everybody could be happy with.
Yeah, and that's something that,
Could you say, oh, excuse me,
that we, and I'd have to have, Kevin back there, we'd have to look it over.
Sure.
And see how
I
it
mean,
lays. I mean, I can't
My,
answer
my
that
thought
right
is
now,
you combine 1 through 3 and combine 11 and 12. Land value is the land value, and you might actually be able to get a premium with bigger lot sizes, but, cause you're also talking about 2 different phases here too, right? Did I interpret that correctly?
but more than likely, yeah.
Yeah.
Just to get it up and going, so we could do the front half first, is what our plan was. So you're saying lots 1, 2, and 3 combined?
Yeah,
I don't think I wanna combine all those, I would maybe split them up in half.
yeah,
I
that
could
would be
see
2
that.
lots
I don't
instead
want
of
one
3
lot
lots.
on the 13th Avenue, in that corner.
okay, fair enough.
You could do.
Just asking.
combine the 3
Yeah,
into
so it'd be
2.
7, yeah, so it'd be just over 2 acre, two and a quarter piece or whatever.
Mm-hmm, I could see that.
And then lot 11 is almost 2 acres already, it's 1.9, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're,
And the other one's 1.9, those are fairly good lots, that's 2 acres most of the lots already around here are acre or less, so.
Right.
I don't think that's,
what were you hoping
But
to
remember,
achieve?
we're trying to buffer it with something that's more akin to an R4 type atmosphere, right?
Yeah,
So
that's true.
the
So-
more land you can get there on a parcel, the better towards achieving that.
Cause what's the minimum size in
So the lot sizes directly south of this development
For
they're all right
R4.
around a half acre.
for 5 though, for R4? what's the-
R4 minimum acreage is 5 acres.
Yes, okay, so I see what Dan's saying then. So that's what they're trying to do, so. And then that would be more akin to what you've got over here.
Yeah, that might go a long way to, obviously you have some neighbors to the south there off of the Lake Arrowhead subdivision where, like Lori said, the homes that they're putting up in there might be more in tune with what we might be suggesting as far as combining the 2 different lots together.
so those Arrowhead lots that they're putting $300,000 homes on are, how big of lots? Half an acre? So why couldn't you put a $300,000 home on a 2 acre lot?
Because they're getting bigger.
Right,
And
so that's
people
why
are
these
combining
lots-
those lots.
These lots are bigger, they're 3 times the size of a half an acre, correct?
But we're talking R4, and she just told you the
Right.
size of R4 lots.
Right, but I'm saying what we have offered right here, right on the map, I guess. If you're considering a half an acre lot, that they're putting up $300,000 homes, they could easily do that on a 2 acre lot on this subdivision, correct?
But what we're
I don't
saying,
think anybody's arguing that.
Oh, I just saw you said they're putting $300,000 homes up, meaning why couldn't they do that on this layout that we're proposing?
I'm simply going back to the fact of, I know what the future land use map says now. I know what we're considering changing that to in the future. And this, as it sits, isn't consistent with that. However, I'm also cognizant of the fact that right across the street from there is where the town plans to have density development. So if you can work with us to try to create this buffer with us of R4 throughout half of your development, or not R4 literally, but something that would accomplish the same look and feel, I think that would be much more palatable to everybody. But that's just my opinion.
but then about what about lots 4, 5, 6, and 7?
What's wrong with those?
They're not, I don't think they'd be an issue considering they're not abutting that
All
arrow.
right,
That's what I'm understanding it.
I mean, they're over 4 acres away from where the southern edge of this property is.
And would be across the street from multifamily in Rome Town Center.
Yeah.
Well, these, I mean, they're fairly close too, 1, 2, and 3. I mean, not as close, but they're close enough.
Cause right across the road from 1, 2, and 3, I believe are 2 pole buildings.
Correct.
So I don't see what a density problem would be there next to a storage unit. I mean, there's nobody across the road that's gonna complain about that, right? I mean, it's the ski shop, and then I think the snowmobile club. So I don't see the point of that, those two either then. I can see maybe, I don't know, lot 1, cause it does adjoin the Arrowhead. But the way this is laid out to tie lot 1 and 11 in is kind of an L-shaped goofy lot. I don't know how we could
Well,
reconstruct.
Oh, I
No,
would-
that's
no.
not what he's saying.
Clarify, instead of lot 1, 2, and 3, just split lot 2 in the middle and do lot 1 and 2. To make that lot 1 a little bit closer to that
Split
2
those,
acre.
one could be adjoined with 3, you're saying, right? Make 1, 2, and
Yes.
3 into 2 lots, which
Yes.
I don't see a problem with that. But the rest of them on the south border, I mean, our back 40, those are 10-acre lots, 5-acre lots, 5-acre lots almost, and then we got 3, 2, and 2 almost.
I have a question for Nick. Isn't this kind of just taking us back to that time when we had spot zoning and we tried so hard to get away from it?
Well, I think your zoning administrator just gave the justification that this isn't spot zoning. I don't.
I mean, I know that, I realize that, but I just don't want to get us back to a place where now we're setting a precedent that we might end up going that direction. I'm not trying to,
so I was-
that's not what I'm doing to Emily,
No,
but I
so
just wanna make
was thinking
sure.
the same- I was thinking the same thing originally, but I think Emily did speak to the surrounding zoning.
Right.
I don't think that with an R1, particularly in R1, that you're up against spot zoning at all. It sounds like there's R1 to the left, or to the, would be the west, that there's, so I don't think you're spot zoning anything. The
It'd be-
LD is to the south of it, but I don't think you're spot zoning with R1, given the west zoning designation.
So
And
we'll
they'd
do
be
an-
all consistent on the comp plan, it'd be consistent from his north property line down through Lake District, that'd be all residential, on the comp plan.
So we'll do an R4 with those couple of,
You can't do an
R1.
R4.
R1.
R1 with a couple of, okay, sorry.
Right, so what I'm hearing, just so to kind of summarize, what I'm hearing is some conversation surrounding the next agenda item, which would be the plat, as far as the actual layout of the lots are concerned. Obviously, the timing is okay during this agenda item to talk about the R1 and maybe where there would be more comfort in landing as far as a lot layout. But then I think where you would have this conversation and maybe put it into place would probably be for the preliminary plat, and maybe as a condition as well for the rezone. I know that got off track to the spot zoning, but I don't think we're spot zoning here because there is adjacent zoning that is R1.
All right, thank you.
Chairman, you just wanna ask if there are others that wanna speak for the public hearing?
You can do that. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak? Yes, sir, please come up.
Do we have a copy of this for these folks to see? I mean, they might be flying blind on what we're talking about.
Yeah, that
here.
would be nice, because we haven't seen it yet. And so, I'm Tim Schutte. I live at 344 Blue Waters Trail. I also own the lot 340 Blue Waters Trail.
You wanna look at mine while you're waiting? We could look at hers, he's got one.
So I'm trying to,
Lower right-hand corner,
okay, that's,
lots 1, 2, and 3. Talking possibly about splitting lot 2 in half and making
Okay.
those 2 large parcels.
okay,
And then, again, the lot 11 and 12 are, both of them are almost 2 acres each, as well as the lot 19. And then from there, you go to
yeah, the larger.
2 lots that are almost 5 acres, one lot's almost 10.
Okay. Yeah, so we're still, a lot of us are opposed to going off of Forest to, any of this. R4 we'd prefer. Unfortunately, I didn't get my notification until yesterday in the mail. Otherwise, a lot of these people that live along this property, don't live there, so I have to send them regular mail.
We noticed that when the list of people that were had objections to the previous, the way the development was set up, that most of them don't even live on that street.
Right.
They own the property,
They
but
own
they
the
live
property,
somewhere
they're
else.
gonna build someday, and the people up on the north side off of, what's this, Alpine? I'm sorry, or what's?
Alpine, yeah.
Yeah, you know, that just bought all the R4 land. You know, they're not here full-time yet either. They're gonna be building houses next year or two. So I hadn't got a chance to get anything to them, because I thought this would come up in December and not this month. So I was hoping to have time to follow up with those people, and I didn't get a chance to, due to the notice. Like I said, I got my notice yesterday in the mail for the first time. So I think gave me a lot of time to plan. I found out about it earlier or late last week, because one of my neighbors did get theirs on Friday, and I called Emily after that and discussed it with her. But we prefer, you know, keeping it Forest if that's not optional. R4 would be more compatible, but we're happy with the back half, you know, probably not as much as the front half. And so I guess that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, hearing none, then we'll move on to 7B, which is consideration of a preliminary plat for the Alpine Estates subdivision to be located on a 79-acre parcel owned by TNS Land Investments. Described as follows: parcel number 30-631 and 30-632. All parcels also described as part of section 7, town 20 north, range 6 east, town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin. So I think, like Nick said, most of our discussion that we've already had would go back to the way this, we'd possibly like to see this plot develop versus what was presented to us. Is that?
Yeah, I would just say that a lot of the questions that you've already had to the applicant dovetails into this one.
And Emily she has some handouts that she shared regarding the preliminary plat too.
Does anybody have any more comments or wish to speak on the plot development?
So the handouts that I gave you, the first set with just red markings was our review given to Badgerland, who did the preliminary plat. The second handout in there is their comments, and the third states what has been changed and what still needs to be addressed for that preliminary plat. And as you can see, they address nearly everything, and the others are essentially it's cosmetic.
Now, it says in the Badgerland survey that there are no plans for any covenants at this time.
Correct.
And that was one thing that the folks in that area had written us about, had got a call about, and that there was definite concerns about when those folks handed in the sheet with all those signatures. So I think that's something that we have to have an additional discussion about as well.
And I think moving to R1 to eliminate manufactured homes was a part of that. The other part was camping.
Yes.
And then moving to R1 eliminated the 2 camping units per lot and only allowing 1 camping unit per lot.
So,
Just as a reminder, if there are covenants on that property, that is not enforceable by the town. So covenants are usually provided to the plan commission to review as part of the plat discussions and before approval.
right,
But if per se, the covenants would say no campers are allowed and a lot would be sold and a camper would be moved on, that is not an enforcement item that the town could proceed with. It would have to be done by the Property Owners Association.
right.
I'd like to see 1, 2, and 3 combined to make one lot, and then that along with 11, 12, and 19 reconfigured to come up with at least 3 acres per parcel.
Which are the other ones you mentioned, Dan?
So the 3 that are stacked, and then 11, 12, and 19. Everything that borders the other development.
So 3 acres per parcel for each of these bottom 4.
Yep, I think it's doable.
And with that comment, I guess, since 1, 2, and 3 are across from large units that are used by groups within the town, my concern is even more so with 4, 5, 6, and 7 that are across from multifamily developments within our Rome Town Center.
What, okay, why?
What's the concern?
Why? Pardon?
Can you clarify your concern?
Yes, because I look at it as a walkability element that would be something that has some value to it, that they can walk through the multifamily area to get over to, which is really basically our town center.
That's a good point.
I'm not following you.
She's just saying my understanding is she thinks there's value in these lots, the 4, 5, 6, and 7, to have them remain their size.
Or larger even.
Or larger because it's across from Rome Town Center and dense development.
And that's,
Why
there's
would
more
you want them larger?
larger, have them larger, because
Why?
just the same reason you think that 1, 2, and 3 and 11, 12, and 19.
1, 2, and 3 are we're trying to strike a balance here between dense development and not dense development, right?
Exactly.
So 4 through 7 are gonna abut what's gonna be dense development north of where his proposed road is here, and where was it, Timberline? What's the road that's gonna come straight through?
Timberline, they're keeping the same name, but Courtson Drive.
Timberlake Parkway runs through.
And they pretty much line up the way this is proposed.
Yes, I think that's the plan, is that the road would line.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's a good delineation point from my perspective.
It'd be
I
very
underst-
cohesive with Rome Town Center.
You have multifamily that may go in, that's zoned across the road there, that is part of the Rome Town Center, and I just look at that as having some value and some walkability value.
Well, I don't even understand what you mean when you say walkability.
Well, if you have a home here and it's on like 4 acres and you can walk out your door and go through the Rome Town Center, there's other multifamilies there, and if we have a pathway, like that's in the design manual, that you can get to, which is gonna be the band shell and shopping and,
I think you're arguing the opposite. You want more lots there, based on what you're saying.
but then that goes to density, but
Right,
I
so
guess it's 2 different ways of looking at it, I guess.
those lots are a little over 1.5 acres. That's probably fine for what's gonna be right across the street from those ultimately.
See, and I look at seeing a 2-acre lot across from a pole barn as, well, it's 2 different perspectives on
Yeah, we're trying to make some type of
balance. I
halfway
get
meet
it.
with the people from Lake Arrowhead, you know?
I get it. I'm looking at the overall, right, okay.
Is there any more discussion on 7B? We'll move on to 7C. Consideration of the issuance of a conditional use permit for the following purpose: to construct storage units on the property Tauzand Dollar Enterprises LLC for the property located at Section 17, Town 20 North, Range 6 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, with a parcel number of 030-790. Emily?
There were 9 notice letters sent to properties within 200 feet of the affected property. The following agenda item is for the site plan of operation for this parcel. Let's see. Yeah, so this agenda item is just for the conditional use, which storage units are conditional use in B1 Business District, and this also falls in Gateway.
Okay. A rep? Step up, sir.
I'm Leo Sauter. I own the property called $1,000 Enterprise down there.
Okay.
And that office down there is owned by me, MPB Builders. I had 3 or 4 tenants there. Dean Ramsey rents from me for the last 3-4 years. Him and his partner are the people that like to develop the 5 acres to the south for condo storage. I have no objection to there at this time. I know they gotta follow some water runoff studies and quite a lot of rope to go through yet, but that's all I got to say. I have no objection to it. It'll be a compliment to our area there because I plan on building storage to the back of my property.
Okay.
Friendly reminder, we'll need a site plan of operation for that too.
Nick?
Just a general question on the application. So on the application, I see a proposed term of 1 to 2 years. Can the applicant speak to the long-term plan for this property?
Dean Ramson's my name. I'm a Town of Rome resident. And I have the Remax office that I rent from Leo. So this is a little bit different than your normal storage units. These are actually will be like condos. So with covenants and so they'll be owned individually instead of just renting to people on a month-to-month. They actually will own the unit. This is getting real popular throughout the country. My partner's from Colorado, and he's doing it there. He's on his second unit. They're doing it in Green Bay. They're doing it in Illinois. If you YouTube this idea of doing this storage condo. So it's commercial, so these are these units here on this side are like 20 by 50, so if they're 1,000 square feet. And I'll get to your question of reason for phasing it. There's 4 phases to it. So there's 8 buildings, and just because it's a big project, it's they're going to be around 100,000 a piece. So it's like at 95 units, like a $9 million project. So because of financing and pre-selling, we have to pre-sell half of the phases. That's the reason why it's the timing on it. It could even stretch out potentially more than that.
Okay, so what I'm asking though is, I'm just addressing the conditional use permit, and so if you were granted the conditional use permit, there's a term that the plan commission would put on that conditional use. And it looks like you're asking for a proposed term of 1 to 2 years, and what that would mean would be if the plan commission approved this for 1 to 2 years, that would sunset, and that the use then would go away. And so I'm
I think,
wondering.
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because my architect put that on there. I actually had like a 4-year, because there's 4 phases to it, but it could happen sooner than that.
Would it
Okay,
be
so-
more-
So then, can you explain then to the plan commission and everybody really, what, after year 4, this is gonna look like? Because is this going to then turn into a permitted use or a different conditional use? Or why exactly then are you asking for a term, that is a conditional use of 4 years?
I think to clarify, he plans on having building through those 4 years with the conditional use extending indefinite.
To complete the
Is
project,
that,
yeah,
is
to
that true?
complete it, yeah.
If you have it for 4 years, though, you lose the conditional use at
Yeah.
the end of the 4 years.
Yeah, the 4 years.
So I think there's misinterpretation of what that means.
Then you wouldn't be allowed in that zoning, right? Because you would no longer have a conditional use.
Nick's
Yeah.
being an attorney and he's trying to
No,
lead you
yeah.
to the.
Just trying to check and see if the longer term vision is something different than storage units, because that's what, when you tell me 4 years is how long you need this for, that's what that tells me, and that would be what that would be. If what you're asking is, for indefinite, then I just wanna make sure that we're clear on that and that that's built in. So it doesn't necessarily sound like, it certainly doesn't sound like 1 to 2 is right. 4
Right.
years is your development plan, but long-term, so let's just talk about like year 5.
Yep.
Is that still going to be storage units?
I hope it's done before 4 years.
Right,
So here's the deal. For me to move forward on the project, I have to pre-sell, half of the 4 phases. So,
But Dean, it's not gonna be a hair salon year 5, it's not gonna be
No,
apartments
no.
year 6, it's
So
not gonna be.
what you're applying for is the conditional use permit
Yeah.
to have
For
that
storage.
business, that
Yeah.
activity on that,
Yeah,
on that property.
Right,
Forever.
Forever, forever,
okay,
forever, yeah,
indefinite. is the answer.
indefinite, yeah.
Thank you.
But I did not fill out that form, so.
Understand. That's why we have the conversation, so it sounds like you're asking for an indefinite term.
Yes, yes,
Because the full use going forward would be, proposed to be.
the only, and probably the reason I'm hesitating is because if if this is approved and I go to marketing and I find out that there's not a buyer for this, then I'm still gonna purchase the land, but I would probably end up coming back and either saying, okay,
fine.
game plan B,
And you would have to,
Yeah.
if your use was, if what you were then going to Plan B for was a different conditional use, you'd have to be back here.
And so a question with that is, there's two kinds of storage units. There's this condo storage, and then there's the rental storage. So I'm assuming it's storage, right? It's not categorized into,
It would fall under the same
Storage,
conditional
yeah.
use.
It would be
Okay.
it would be the same use
okay,
category.
because that would be, if the purchase idea doesn't work, then I would go to the rent idea.
I understand.
Okay.
What, out of curiosity, and obviously it's ballpark,
Yep.
what does a unit cost?
We're gonna start at, I think, we don't know with costs with the way it is going, but the point is about 100,000 for the bigger units, 89,000 for smaller units.
So what do people do with these ultimately?
My hope is that these people at Sand Valley, they fly in here, and they want their sports car here and their golf clubs, and they use them as kind of man caves. That's what they do. Boats, yeah, it's good for businesses.
Clarification,
yeah.
man cave is a habitable
okay,
area
so-
that would not be part of this conditional
Yeah,
use.
okay.
So that's why,
With
that's why I was
professional
asking.
offices.
Yeah,
Circulation
it would be
type.
storage only.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's what they're, their cars, their nice cars or boats or, or, yes.
Your front, she just mentioned, your front, your office.
Yeah,
So
yep.
it's a little
Yeah, the
That's-
front,
right there.
yeah, the front of it would be an office there. That'll be for real estate, and then also for everybody that's part of the association can use the other half of it for conference room. And, we'll probably take one of those storage units and split that in half as well,
So I think
and a
that,
bathroom.
yeah, what we need to have an understanding of is what the full use of the property is gonna be, cause I know a development similar to this in Missouri actually, and, well, I'm a car guy, so it's
Yeah.
actually a facility that looks very similar, but they're bays that you can lease out, and they've got lifts in them and tools and everything like that, right? So
Mhm.
I could see somebody doing something or wanting to do something like that with one of your bays,
Mm-hmm.
and you might want to be able to do that, but we gotta make sure that these are all permitted uses and we know what we're getting into here, right? So it's more than just storage, I think.
I've got a couple of questions too, please. So the land there is currently owned by the gentleman that you
Yeah.
lease from?
Yeah.
Okay, and you have other land in town that you currently have rental units on, correct?
No, that's my brother.
That's your brother. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so you have no other land to kind of test this sort of,
No.
okay. I'm wondering if maybe this is the type of thing that we need more of a plan, and we've had this discussion maybe at CDA that we need to get back to a place where we have these types of ideas maybe more drawn up and brought forward to our community development authority, and we work through that with you and our town administrator, zoning administrator, and look at what you really have, because you've talked about you've touched on a few different ideas here. First, you talk storage,
Well, that's what
selling
it
them,
is.
and
It's storage, yeah.
right, and then if they don't work out as somebody buying them, then you may lease them. So there, you've talked on a couple different things. There's some ideas that came out here too that Commissioner Goldman touched on that maybe are a possibility. So then it kind of comes down to really kind of using this piece of land as speculation. So with a conditional use permit, and bottom line is this is in our Gateway Overlay District. So this is really prime real estate, as you know, in the Gateway Overlay. So, and with that, in our zoning code, this is our first impression. So this is our crown jewel per se in the town. And as we grow more, it's pretty important to the town and to those coming to visit and those buying here. So there's a lot here in the zoning code that we really need to pay attention to. So I'm wondering if maybe we need to look at some different steps here and need to have this maybe go through our CDA. You've got some good storyboards here, or information here, and we go that route first.
I don't know. So you're concerned about gateway overlay, as you always are, and that's
Yes,
really just,
exactly.
it's just aesthetics. I think it's a really nice looking building, so long as it meets all of the requirements of the gateway overlay.
Well, it's,
Uh,
I-
There's a propensity in this town to not want more storage units, but hey, they fill up as soon as they're built, and business is business. So I'm
But
not
he's
gonna
talking
stand in
about
the way of
selling
that.
'em. He's talking about selling
Fine,
them.
it's a different concept, no doubt. He's got a plan B, but if you want to start, and we're going to prove it solely as storage use only, okay. If you want more, you've gotta come back to us with what you want more of. So
Yeah, you'd have to amend the conditional use.
I see an option of either continuing down this path and you're doing what you're doing, and it's storage only for now.
Right, that's for me. All I
Then-
want is, yeah.
Yeah, or path B is maybe the longer route that Lori's suggesting, you work with CDA to develop the business idea and yada, yada, yada. But
I think
that can be done in
Yeah.
parallel.
Yeah, and I think it will be up to the buyer, whoever the buyer is, and what they want to use for it.
But
Well-
they have to know that they're
Mhm. Yeah.
restricted
Yeah,
until you're able to provide them with more options by working with us, right?
they're restricted to just storage.
Storage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not human habitation and
Right.
not professional office space.
yeah, yeah,
And
correct.
just to then piggyback off that, in the event that you were then to approve this, you would probably wanna make sure we put, specific conditions in place on the approval, just to make clear that, what exactly you're approving, and that any different change or modification in
Excuse
potential
me.
use
Excuse me.
is going to require an amended conditional use permit and another approval by this body.
So just to clarify, whether it's leasing or condos, same conditional use permit. So they would not need to come back if they decide to lease instead of sell.
Yeah, as long as the use hasn't changed, that's correct. So if they're putting forward a condo plat to, do storage units, and that use is for storage units, again, that is what you'd be approving today. If they were doing a condo development, and they were selling it, and then somebody wanted to do a man cave or a professional office or something, that wasn't storage units, then they would have to come back and get a different approval. And that might even, I don't know if site plan of operation would come into play, but it might. It just depends.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
It's all light industrial storage. They're condoed out, separate ownership. That's it. Somebody wants to come in and store their goods that they sell. There's restrictive covenants. It's already written in. They can't live there. They can't run a car shop out of there, stuff like that. So it's in the association documents that guides what can happen in there. It's very protective.
Very,
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm familiar with what you're proposing to do, and I understand what you're saying, and I think one of the challenges that we have is that I don't know that we have the covenants. So I think we're just trying to flesh that out,
That's right.
because you have
We
to
don't
sign
have those
Yeah, once we
things.
provide those, that outlines very
Absolutely.
clearly what people can and cannot do there.
And so
Yeah.
that would have probably helped from this standpoint.
Right.
However,
And we're working on that, and that will be submitted also.
so without that,
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
why the questions are coming in, just to try to better understand exactly the scope of what you're looking to do, because
Yeah.
storage units is storage units, and there are other things that have been even discussed today, that could happen, and that wouldn't be allowed if
Right.
this was approved for storage units. So that's
Yeah.
the reason we asked
Just
that.
people owning their own garage, putting your own storage in it. They just own it. That's the real difference here.
And I would just like you to understand and appreciate the fact that we can get ourselves in a bind where people say, I'll provide you this, I'll provide you this, I'll provide you that. We grant you the approval and we wait for all these things to come, and it doesn't always happen, so we end up with problems. So we have to protect ourselves, protect the town.
So we can
And part of commercial A sub-district, you know, is the fact that we're supposed to avoid big box. And even though this looks very, very nice, it is in fact big box. So
Yeah,
that's
we try
the
to
only
dress it
reason
up.
I brought
Yeah.
these things up. And I have small businesses talking to me about these things. So we had this discussion again last night at a small business meeting. So that's why I continually am the one that brings them up. So, and again, we now have a new checklist that says you need to be aware of these things, and we really should have them before we give conditional use permits. So that's the only reason I asked the questions.
This property's B1.
Correct.
Gateway,
Can we
B1
just have you
Gateway.
say
And,
your
uh,
name into the mic and address just for the record, for the minutes?
Roland Lockard, and I'm in Johnstown, Colorado is where I live.
Okay,
He's a business partner.
yep, that's fine. We just wanna make sure that we have it for the recording.
The buildings are located where on the property? I think it was in the scan, but the scan was pretty hard to read.
So I
Figure
don't,
2,
No.
4, 6.
Right.
yeah,
How far off the roadway?
How far would your first building be
Oh, I
off the
think,
road?
I think it's, well, it's off the lot line, I think it's 60 feet. It would be in line with what Leo has there now. The office would be in line with that, I think, pretty close to that.
Would the storage sheds that are on that property now be removed?
The storage shed's on there, it's
I
just
don't think
vacant,
they're-
they're just vacant land.
I thought there was sheds in the front of
Oh,
it.
there was, there's the little sheds?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah,
so
no,
they're-
that's been
they're
all
gone.
done away with.
Okay.
That was done away a couple years ago,
Okay.
COVID.
Any questions from anybody in the audience for this gentleman regarding his conditional use permit?
I just have one more general question. Is, the units are climate controlled or out of curiosity?
It can be, yeah, yeah. They'll have.
Nothing to do with this process. I'm just
No,
asking.
he's
Yeah,
for himself.
yeah, if you're looking, we're looking for buyers, so.
I'm not in at that
I'll get
price,
you my
sorry.
card.
But they would have electric.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Electric and
okay.
All right, we'll go to 7D, consideration of a site plan of operation for Tuzan's Dollar Enterprise LLC for the property located at section 17, town 20 north, range 6 east, town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, the parcel number of 30-790. Is there anything additional that needs to be brought up regarding their site plan and plan of operation?
So they had, they filled out our new business information sheet and they provided, everything that could be provided before moving forward with the project, such as stormwater runoff plans and utility plan. So they provided everything on our checklist, and just to note again, let's see. I think that's everything to note, but they have everything down to, lighting, signage, design of ingress, egress, landscaping, including, building designs on the, pictures that you have on these easels, and then our full application.
I know it doesn't check refuge enclosure, but this photo over here shows a refuge enclosure.
And that'd be behind a building, not in front, just to note.
Those colors, are these the colors you intend to use?
Yeah.
And do those meet your design standards for the Gateway District?
To my knowledge, yes, I would,
Natural colors, dark roofs, yep.
it has the,
It's off-white,
stone offset, they have,
but that's off-white. Isn't that an off-white color?
yeah,
Yeah, it
Did you show us a picture last time that off-white doesn't,
It's an off-white. It's not a true white, it's.
that off-white isn't what?
allowed?
It's a earth tone color.
We don't have restrictions for white or off-white just as a no, but we do ask for earth tones or natural colors is I think how we have it.
Yeah, so
Natural
beige,
earth tone.
off-white, would be allowed. The stone and landscaping are all to code.
Is the stone the proper percentage?
So that is related, the stone requirement is not in Gateway, that's in Commercial A, but we roll in Gateway, so it'd have to be 50% of the section that faces the roadway, so that would just be the first two buildings.
And based on the overhangs and the offset going across the entire front with landscaping, I believe that would be to code.
We could include that as a requirement of the site plan too,
Yeah.
that it would be.
Okay.
So 50% of your two front face buildings would have to be a stone or another natural material, rough wood, hewn wood, something.
More than what's there, what more than what's?
You'd have to do the percentage just to ensure it was 50%.
Is the roof,
You did draw on the other building on this picture.
Yeah, the other building has it.
is the roof on the office a standing seam roof? That's such a silly question for me to ask. Yes? Okay. They're all standing seam?
Not quite 50%, you're saying this is
That would have to increase, yeah. Assuming that the footprint,
the center.
assuming that the footprint of the building is within that 200 foot from center line gateway overlay, yes, would have to change.
Anything else on this proposed, site plan and plan of operation? Okay, moving on, 7E. Consideration of proposed plan unit development project plan amendment relating to the property owned by Wisconsin Dunes LLC, Sand Valley Golf Resort. Revision to clarify the density of development within subdivisions.
There were 23 notice letters sent to properties within 200 feet of the affected property. The revision is to add clarity to the emphasis on low-density development throughout Sand Valley, Mammoth Conservancy, and Sedge Village subdivisions. The PUD plan included in the packet notes all changes made throughout all of the amendments. The changes that are to be approved tonight are highlighted in yellow under special residential area. So this change, it's just to clarify and have better phrasing to emphasize that low density development.
And Coco is here from.
Yes.
Ma'am? Sure.
Hi, I'm
Hello.
Coco Collins. I'm a developer and I work with Michael Kaiser over at Sand Valley for about 3 years now. So yeah, just as Emily said, Emily asked us to put a little more clarification in the PUD that you've all seen. It's just, you know, none of our design standards have changed, but it's just more clarification added. So I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has. Yeah.
Just, maybe just to further clarify.
Yep.
I think the language that you're adding is doing two different things. Yes, you're emphasizing the density of development, but you're also calling out the split in lot sizes to one residence versus 1 or 2 residents per lot. That's a big change that you're doing to this. That wasn't specifically in there before, but I think as I understand what you have asked, or some of these properties have asked, that have larger lots, is to put a second home on the lot. So that's what you're doing also with this, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And what size are those lots?
So those can range from anywhere between, call it 5 acres all the way up to like 30 acres. There's one lot in Sedge Village that's 30 acres. So Michael has design standards that we have in place, and we communicate them very clearly to owners that, you know, you can't, you know, if there's a second dwelling on the property, it cannot exceed 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom home. That is, you know, Michael's put that in place to prohibit people from building 2 4-bedroom homes on, call it a 5-acre lot, or, you know, 2-bedroom, you know, 2 8-bedroom homes or whatever, just to keep the, you know, we want to preserve a lot of the more natural area. We have significantly smaller building envelopes as well on these larger lots. So, for example, if someone has 30 acres at Sedge Village, they actually only have 2 acres of a building envelope that they can control. The other 28 acres is all, you know, kept natural restoration land. We work with the owner on that.
So how many homes would be allowed on 5 acres?
Right now, 2. So like a main home, and then what people might call like a guest home, quote
Guest
unquote.
home. And the square footage of a guest home?
I'm guessing roughly 2,500. The guest home cannot exceed currently 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes. So, you know, people are maybe putting up a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, a small kitchenette,
And the
you know,
main
and a
home
living
would
room.
be-
We have no restrictions on bedroom size. Michael doesn't, we don't have anything bigger than 8-bedroom, 8-bathroom in a main home. He's talked about, you know, he wouldn't really approve anything larger than 10-bedroom, 10-bathroom, but no one's even approached us with wanting a house of that size or scale.
Would the 2-bed, 2-bath apply if it was garage structure with apartment above?
Yeah, that still applies. Yep. Yeah, and you can't have like 3 dwellings. You know, it can only be a main home and a guest home. If more dwellings are permitted, you know, that Michael approves, it can't have livable space. So some of them might be like
A detached
a
garage.
detached garage. You know, some simple structure like that, a pool house. You know, for storage of, you know, something.
So it couldn't be a house, the 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom garage with 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom on top.
Right. That garage, for example, yeah, one of the homes did that, and you know, their garage, they have a 1-bedroom apartment above the garage, so they aren't permitted to build another livable structure on that house, you know, on that property.
Nick?
And this might be putting you on the spot, but I'm just curious, do you know the number, the breakdown on how many lots are under 1 acre?
Under 1 acre, just got to think about it. Nothing in Sand Valley, nothing in Mammoth. There are 5 in Sedge Village. They're the ones along the golf course on Sedge Valley, hole number 1, lots 29 to 33 on the plat map. Those are approximately, call it 0.4 acres or a third of an acre. We are designing specific homes for those specific lots because the lot is so small, that can, you know, keep up with the design standards, you know, preserve Sand Valley and the golf course. We're designing specific homes that those people can place, and it's one home. So I guess that would be the only one that it would apply to.
I asked the question because I assumed that some work had been done to figure out where that lot size kind of delineation is, as far as that 1 acre was concerned. So it sounds like that was drawn up in that way and proposed in this way, because you have those that are going to be, you know, built to a certain spec and not have multiple residences on the lot, versus all the remaining ones are larger, it sounds like. Large enough that it can allow for 1 or 2, up to 2 residences per lot.
Yep.
Thank you.
I apologize, I might have misunderstood that question, but the majority of your lots in Sand Valley Homes, your original, are 1 acre or less.
Yep.
Okay.
The original ones. So those have all been designed, built on, you know, rented, aside from 1 lot, which is 12, which Michael Kaiser still owns. Those you're only allowed to. The second structure, aside from the main home, is like a detached garage, no livable space. You know, it's a single stall. A few of the homes have done it. And that's the only thing that's allowed because those lots are smaller. They can't support another building with, you know, extra living space.
That
Yep.
answers it, thank you.
With all the details we just discussed, are these things that we have authority over, or what's the limits of our authority within the PUD? Obviously, this has to come before us for this amendment for some reason.
Yeah, so the reason that it's coming forward, and that was why I said what I did, was because there had been requests to put a second residence on parcels, and what we do when we get a request like that, that deals with a PUD zoned area, because PUD zoning is very unique in that we go through a process and approve the plan, but then, you know, as far as the allowed things to do, it's going to be in conjunction with the approved project plan. This is within something we have authority to do. The reason it's here today is because when that was requested of us, since it was not specified in the project plan, we felt that it should be reviewed with you all and really updated in the project plan, so going forward, it was very clear what those guidelines were. It was really to set forth mutual understandings from both the town and the developer going forward, where that kind of that line is, right? That 1 acre, and anything larger than that allows for it. So it is within our authority. The reason it's here is because it's PUD zoned, and it was not referenced in the project plan when it was requested to us. We felt that safest approach would be to have this conversation, to approve an amendment, if we were going to allow for that. And then going forward, it's very clear what can and can't be done on those properties.
I guess my ask would be that this document somehow morphs into something that looks more like an official project plan. I know why it is the way it is. It's been around for a long time, but every time it shows up on an agenda, I'm looking at a PowerPoint, right? It's a PowerPoint. So if my ask to Sam Valley is if we could have something that's a little more
I'm working
black
with
and white to
Rachel
the facts,
track the
yeah.
changes a little bit differently than our tracked now, a little bit more consistent with how we make amendments to our town code. So I'm working with her to update that and make that a little bit more easily tracked.
That'd be great. Appreciate that. Okay.
Any other questions for this young lady? Anybody in the audience? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 8 is to close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second it. Motion by Dan, seconded by I to close the public hearing. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next section is to discuss some possible action on the following items. Number 9, discussion of possible action regarding the meeting minutes from Tuesday, October 11th, 2022.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion by Jerry, second by Dan to approve the minutes from Tuesday, October 11th, 2022. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 10, discussion and possible recommendation to the town board, consideration of the proposed comprehensive plan map 9 amendment from forestry to residential and zoning map amendment from FR forest and outdoor recreation to R1 single-family residence district relating to the properties owned by TNS Land Investments described as follows: parcel numbers 30-631 and 30-632. All parcels also described as part of section 7, town 20 north, range 6 east, town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, total acres of 79.
Mr. Chairman, just a general comment. You do have findings of fact for this one, as well as, it looks like 10, 11, 12, and 13 are all findings of fact, just for everybody's information. I'm looking for number 14, I'll update you. I don't know that I see the findings of fact in there. So just those items are the ones that you have findings of fact for.
And a motion would be a recommendation to the town board.
I apologize, I forget your name, but did you gentlemen have time to discuss what was suggested?
Yeah, Kevin had to go.
It's Troy, right?
So he had to leave. He's on the town board for another town. So he was just pointing out, I know your concerns were with the front 40, and I don't know, do you guys have a map of the layout in front of you? Okay, perfect. He was just referencing on the first 40, which is a quarter mile, there's 4 adjoining lots on that first 40, right? So on the south side, the arrowhead buffer is 50 feet. He looked it up roughly. And then there's 9 lots on Arrowhead, and I think there's 3 homes there right now on that first 40 roughly. One's in process of getting built, I think, right now. So his concern was, if you only have 4 lots and a quarter mile, is that really considered to be congestion in a 40 line or not? And he said he really didn't feel it was. I know you were talking to go to 3 acres where lot 19 is almost 3 already, and the other 2 are 2. He really didn't think there was a need for it, I guess. Looking at that in a quarter mile, that's only 4 neighbors. I mean, it's not like we're putting 9 houses like on the other side of the road right on top of each other.
I don't wanna be the one driving the conversation here all night. I mean, Jerry's been pretty quiet over there, not to put him on the spot, but
So you're suggesting lot 11 and 12 would remain the same, and then the 1, 2, and 3 would be combined to make 2 lots? Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, and then looking at that on the east side of that, there is 3 sheds there already. When I looked on the maps, I guess I didn't realize that when we were talking earlier. So if 4, 5, 6, and 7 are not a concern because of the density across the road, would combining 1, 2, and 3 would not take away a neighbor to the Arrowhead side on the south, so really that wouldn't make sense either then. Cause you're just across from
Yeah,
3
I'd-
sheds on the east side. I mean, what do you,
I was looking at it from a potential noise factor, more people and
but
smaller
you're not
area, but
gaining,
yeah.
your neighbors are still the
You
same,
have to
right?
think about the camping aspect, that's what they're gonna get really upset about.
Right.
It's gonna be the camping aspect, you don't know what's gonna happen with that 1 or 2 acres, it can make a real difference.
Right,
Well,
and I
but
think
even
now
if
that we
you're-
went to R1, it's 1 camper instead of 2, so I think
doesn't
that's why
matter.
we switched it.
Doesn't matter, 1 camper, it doesn't matter, it could be 10 people, 1 camper.
It could be the same thing in R4 too, though.
Exactly, but you're talking about 5 acres. They could still
I'm just
get-
saying, you can have rowdy people in a house or a camper, to be fair.
Exactly, but it's supposed to be,
Excuse me, but the people in this neighborhood bought into the neighborhood.
right,
This development is not the neighborhood.
I appreciate your perspective, but you
And-
bought into the Arrowhead development,
No,
this is
that's
not
why-
part of
that's why-
Arrowhead.
The
that's
mic
why
when
we-
you talk, please.
Oh,
Well,
I'm sorry.
Obviously, your chance to speak would have been earlier when this is now a discussion between the commissioners.
The agenda item is also for the zoning change, and the plat map changes would come next.
Correct.
Understood, but
Technically, the comp plan amendment and the zoning.
Yeah.
With the reason that the comp plan wasn't a public hearing was that we already had that last month.
Jerry, not to put you on the spot again, but do you have some perspective you wanna share?
Well, I know we're trying to satisfy the people of Arrowhead. And understandable, but again, we do have to look at some future development for the town, and this is a future development project with larger lots, not as large as 5 acres,
But didn't it also start off with the point that Dan made, we're looking at a future change to the zoning and how we use our land.
well, if you really wanna follow that guideline, then you'd have to go to R4's 5 acre lots, be done with it.
Right.
Somebody in the community room really not happy that they got brought to voting.
It's 5 acre lots, I don't know if the developers finds that that's gonna be, financially beneficial. So that's,
But their finances aren't, we have to look out for what's beneficial for the town and how our land use goes forward. I appreciate,
I guess my preference would be to go to R4s and keep the density low.
And then just to clarify, this would be consistent with surrounding, zoning and density if it were R1.
I mean, with what's surrounded by it, doesn't matter what we do, it's gonna be consistent except for commercial, right?
Correct.
Well, you got R4 north of it, R1 to the west, and, Lake District to the south.
Would you be willing to create covenants to not allow camping? With that being the one part of covenants for this subdivision?
I think then it goes back to who's gonna enforce it, right? I mean, that's the concern with anything that we offer to do on this property.
Has to be a property owners association in order to enforce
Right.
it, basically.
But I think as we discussed last meeting, camping is what this area was started with, right? I think that's one of the chair people had said, so I don't know if that's the answer or not, but
And then just to clarify, you, would be opposed to creating larger lot sizes down on these southern properties?
yes, as of looking at the maps, how it lays out, the density, there's still gonna be, even if we go to bigger lots, there's still gonna be 4 lot lines almost, even if you do that, or 4 properties. If you do 5 acres, you'd have 3.
How
Well,
many-
the whole, sorry, Lori, the whole intent of that suggestion is to try to get as close to possible to having the density of neighbors that these folks are probably ultimately gonna have someday, right? Because if this doesn't happen, it's
It's going to,
gonna be R4, R5,
right, sooner or
for
later,
sure,
right?
so.
So we-
Go
Are
ahead.
you done?
Yeah, I'm
sorry.
done,
Are you
yeah.
done? Sorry, Dan. So we did R4, there'll be 5-acre lots.
But we're not doing you're saying if we did it.
If we did do
Yeah.
R4, if we did do R4, it's 5-acre lots, and they'd have 1 camping unit. However, if we could put a restriction on it with a covenant that
But nobody's gonna enforce it.
just a covenant that says camping for 5 years. And then they
That's a
have to
covenant, that's not enforceable
be
by
up
the
to
It would
town.
be enforced.
No, but whoever develops the lots then, the builder that comes in and develops this.
And then, yeah, zoning would have to do that in your department, right? Then everybody would have to fall by those rules, and just not our subdivision, correct?
That would be a code amendment, town code amendment, and that's not what we're doing right now. That would.
Nor would we
could-
consider that.
Yeah,
That's-
the,
Would open Pandora's box for
the
a whole bunch of
covenants
other
would not
problems in
go
the future.
townwide.
So that wouldn't be fair to the people that are buying these lots if everybody else in the town can, and this 80 acres cannot. If
But
I'd say no,
Arrowhead can't, right? Arrowhead has a covenant that doesn't allow
but
camping.
town of
in
Rome
this, yeah.
allows it, correct?
Correct.
In most zoning, yeah.
In residential,
All
it's not commercial, in residential.
I just see more and more communities north of here as their land is getting bought up as the mills are selling it, that they're putting restrictive.
Have you looked at laying these out as R4?
We did. It's gonna be a lot tougher to come out on it, just because the lot size, not everybody wants 5 acres. And we're trying to, that's why we laid it out where there's different size lots already. We're trying to make it accommodating so it sells, for 1, and 2, if we do all 5-acre lots, it's, cause we don't have road access to this. Like, to the north property, they had 2 lines of road access, correct? They have Alpine and 13. For us to make this come out without building the roads, it's hard. I think the price of the lot would be so high, we probably wouldn't do it. It wouldn't make financial sense for us.
Well, those are almost 10-acre lots, those 24 and 25.
The back ones, correct.
You're right.
They're 10-acre lots.
And then you've got 4 here that are almost 5 acres, so.
The first half is designed to cover the cost on most of this project. So now if we do front and back the same, the cost for us will not work. Just because of the roads we have to build and supply and cover, plus the power, it's not feasible.
if you did the combination as I suggested, with the exception of maybe that 1, 2, 3, if you just combine those and divide in half, that means there's 4 properties in your phase 1 that abut the development to the south. Looking at this, that's likely what there would be if it was all R4, based on the,
It wouldn't change much. You still
Right.
have the same amount of properties.
you'd still
butting
have the
up
same amount of
ahead.
properties going from east to west
Correct.
over the
So you're not
the
really
2
gaining
parcels.
much if they're worried about the neighbors, right? One lot, maybe.
Yeah, that just gets back to cutting down the density on that immediate vicinity.
Yeah, I could see if we had 7 lots along that 40 line, but that's not the case here. Our density, we try to control out on 13 is where we put our density to make it come out, in which, that's where we're trying to be humble, I guess, if you wanna call it that, to keep the density on that, on the road.
Have you built other subdivisions?
Our company has.
Okay.
We haven't, we build them as the construction company.
Okay.
We didn't finance them.
All right.
Right.
Typically, you know, on these, like lots 11, 12, and 13, based on the price of what it costs to run the utilities into those home sites, typically how far back would the house normally sit? I mean, I
Most
suppose it all
people-
depends on what you wanna pay, but,
Exactly. Most people usually try to keep the house a little bit closer for cost to run power from the road to the house. If they put a shed up or something, they try to keep that closer to the road, the house, usually. That's what we've been seeing. So it wouldn't be, like, we kinda did some calculations on those 4 lots to the south. The Arrowhead buffer is roughly 50 feet, and as far as those lots are, what, 308 feet, 320 feet deep? You're gonna have a buffer of 200 feet between the Arrowhead south line with that 50-foot buffer and where these people are probably gonna build. They're gonna center it on that lot to keep away from their neighbors east to west. So it won't be right, you can't answer for everybody, right? But they're not gonna put their home right on the south property line
Right.
of that property.
I think electric charges for every foot, but I think natural gas, you get the first 100 feet into the property.
That's what I was gonna say.
But this all needs to have natural gas communication, that all needs to be run through it. There isn't any existing there, so.
Yeah, at this point, there's nothing to tie into, right? So it would just be power, and I think phone comes in for free to the property line and to the house, I think.
I mean, if it proceeded, we plan to run natural gas down Timberline Parkway with the expansion of the road, so. I mean, considering the huge expansions we've made to natural gas, we'd like to see this on natural gas too.
Yeah, and we're not gonna run natural gas to the subdivision if it's not in our, front steps, right? I mean, I think does it come down 13th? I think it does.
It does, but I don't know if it comes down this far, cause it would service all of Arrowhead behind there, but I don't know that
I guess,
you don't have natural gas at the shed, no.
no, I didn't think it stops somewhere along there.
Now, do we want him to come back with a proposal that meets Dan's recommendation? A new site map?
So we're still on the rezone, not preliminary plat.
Right. Yeah, the rezone, we all agree it's we're gonna go to R1. Regardless of the site plan.
I'm caught up on the order of operations. I don't wanna approve a rezone unless I agree with the site plan, but of course, that's not how this works, so.
I'm kinda with Dan on that.
offer a solution?
Sure.
So again, you have findings of fact with the with this and the next three items. You have findings of fact, it has a spot for conditions. If your hang-up is on order of operations, put it as a condition. That would be the one way to address it.
Contingent upon the approval of a, what, site plat,
Of a preliminary plat.
preliminary plat? I could be on board with that. Oh, where are we here?
10.
10. I'll make a motion to recommend to the town board the consideration of a proposed comprehensive map amendment from forestry to R1 and a zoning map amendment from forestry outdoor recommendation to recreation to R1, including the findings of fact, however contingent upon the approved preliminary subdivision plat.
The comprehensive plan amendment would be forestry to residential, not to R1.
You're right.
Forestry residential.
I did it wrong. There's different, there's the zoning map, but then there's the comprehensive map, which isn't as detailed as the zoning. I referenced R1 twice. I should have just said residential on the first part.
I'll second it.
Okay. If I can. Motion by Dan, second by Jerry to make a recommendation to the town board. The proposed comprehensive plan map 9 amendment from forestry to residential and zoning map amendment from FR, forest and outdoor recreation, to R1. Correct?
With an
And,
approval of.
and adopt the findings of fact
Adopt the findings of fact.
with a condition that both the comp plan amendment and the rezone be conditioned on the preliminary plat being approved.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. I don't know if I
That's
could-
accurate.
Is that accurate?
That is accurate,
Yeah.
yes.
Just have Nick look at that. and
Okay.
make sure.
Is there any other discussion on that motion? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
3, 4, and 1 against. Lori? Motion's approved. Item number 11, discussion and possible recommendation to the town board, consideration of a preliminary plat for the Alpine Estates subdivision to be located on a 79-acre parcel owned by TNS Land Investments, described as follows: parcel numbers 30-631, 30-632. All parcels also described as part of Section 7, Town 20 North, Range 6 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin.
Okay, this one has the findings of fact as well. So as we talk through the order, if this is where your concern is some of the proposed lot design as far as those salt lots are concerned, you can do one of two things. Either you table this item to get a updated lot design back in front of you, or you, because there's a findings of fact, could make the recommendation and condition that on something very specific. If you're not planning on seeing it again, you wanna be very specific with what your expectations in your recommendation would be as far as lot sizes. So I think you have two kind of options. Of course, if you're, those are both related to approvals, of the other option is to deny it. But if you are going to approve this, you can either wait and see something specific as far as layout, or you can make the recommendation to the board and condition it on some kind of very specific layout of those lots.
And you will see the final plat regardless.
Yeah, but, I mean, with final plat and preliminary plat, you're probably better off catching it here since your condition was preliminary plat.
Well, I think it's kind of silly if we say, bring us back something and not be specific about it. So, my opinion, and others obviously can weigh in here, is I'd like to see that the lots that are abutting the other development be at least 3 acres in size.
So Supervisor Goman, just so I'm clear, you're talking about the lots on their phase one, which is the east 40. You want the southern part of those to be at least 3 acres in size, that are
Mhm.
running the south
Yeah.
border.
And I understand the comments you made about lot 1 and the number of neighbors, but then if we look at lot 11, I mean, it's 2 acres. Lot 12 is a bit shallower because your road's curving there, right? So people are gonna be further back just by default, and I think there's just room to cut down on the density that's gonna be right in this general area here in particular by making some adjustments there and come up with a workable solution. That mimics what would likely occur if it was to be an all R4 development along that stretch of land.
So, sorry, Jerry.
How about if we say all the lots south of Timberline must be a minimum of 3 acres?
I think that's effectively what I was creating there, yeah.
Yeah, you can move some of the acreage from some of those other ones that are bigger over by redesigning that area.
So you'd end up with a bigger lot 18 probably as a part of shifting all this around.
Well, could 18, that's not butting up to anybody, could 18 stay the same?
Yeah.
Why would that have to be
Well,
changed? That's inside the
using-
subdivision,
yeah.
right? I
He's
mean,
just
using
doing it
Jerry's
for
language.
wording reasons,
What reasons?
or just give
so they're all uniform south of,
specific lots,
See what
maybe it'd be,
Jerry's saying,
would be
though.
simplified, right? If you wanna say 19, 12, or 19, 12, 11, and 1, that's the budding lots that you're concerned about. Those are the ones that you wanna increase in size.
we could do that too, that's fine.
And that's something we're gonna have to, yeah, we're gonna have to redesign it.
Won't take that much
Because the way the road curves down, you're still gonna have a narrowness on lot 12 or 11, it's not gonna gain a lot. You have a
If
little
you-
bit up in the corner, but that doesn't gain you your center lot.
Right, you're gonna lose a lot here somewhere, or 2, right? So if you,
Two.
I'm just looking at math here, if you're moving the property line between 19 and 12, if you combine 11 and 12, you're at 3.7 something, right? And then you got
I
19.
think 12 and 11 would share some, and I think then you'd bump a little bit over
Yeah,
to
move-
try to
move
get
that
one.
property
or
line over
I
a
don't
little
know,
bit
yeah, that's Kevin's department, he's gonna have to figure this out.
I think it's doable, I guess is what I'm saying. But obviously, you're gonna lose a couple individual lots from it.
Yeah, which increases, yeah.
So do you wanna put that in the form of a motion that those lots abutting the Arrowhead properties be a minimum of 3 acres?
No, just specify the number, lot 1, 11, 12, and 19.
One of those well, I don't know.
Well, I mean, their lot numbers might change if they read.
Well, that's true,
right.
You're right.
I guess from proposed map, we can say, right, of this map, we can call those lot numbers, so we're on the same page of
Right.
this map.
I
The
mean,
new
do we
map
need a
might be-
motion?
Well,
This
that was
is
going to
just-
be, my question was going to be, Dan, do you want then, is it your thought that this come back to the plan commission then to review the preliminary plat with those updates before we move on?
There's been so much discussion here with this that I think I'd prefer it come back here before going to the town board to make sure that we're all comfortable.
So hearing that, then it would probably just be tabling it until the next meeting so that they can get a update to the plan commission.
And I apologize that that adds time to this if it does end up going through, but I think it's the right thing to do.
So Troy, your 1, 11, 12, and 19 are the
Yeah,
lots that
we'll
we're
try
talking
to
about?
refigure it and come up with something, and I'll have Kevin make the map and give it to Emily.
Okay.
And you guys will have it for next time.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your patience. So item number 11 will be tabled until the December meeting, if you have your plans available by then. If not, to a future meeting.
And then Emily and Jamie, just to make a note that, because we have two items here, one being conditioned on approval of a preliminary plat, we may want to hold on one just to get them back on a similar track, otherwise it's likely just gonna get tabled at town board.
Yeah, cause we would have
Oh.
it wouldn't be approved, so it
Yeah.
won't, it will not go to town board on the 17th.
The rezone.
The rezone won't go to town board on the 17th.
So we're gonna table both agenda items.
Nope,
No.
one is already adopted.
One's been
the-
approved.
One's adopted, but waiting
Yeah,
To send
put
it to the town board.
Yes.
and then Troy, I still need your initial and date on the bottom of the rezone.
Okay, item number 12, discussion and possible action, consideration of the issuance of a conditional use permit for the following purpose: to construct storage units on a property owned by, is it Thousand Dollar Enterprises LLC for the property located at section 17, town 20 north, range 6 east, town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number of 30-790.
Mr. Chair, some possible, there is a findings of fact, but some other, possible considerations for conditions of the conditional use. No additional outside storage on the site, if it is storage units, but there would be no other outside storage, so things would have to be kept within inside of the units. And providing the covenants to the town.
Prior to a building permit being issued.
And although it made a few people chuckle here, white is in the overlay. So even though it may be an off-white color, it is in our code here. So I'm not sure why that was humorous to some, but I would add that it should not be white or a light like white color. It should fall in with the other colors that have been presented with other buildings.
I think that would go for the site plan on the next one.
Thank you.
And just so you know, I agree, you know, I don't want pure white. I took a picture of Leo's building and sent it to him in Colorado, and that's what he,
Just a very light cream color.
It's like a beige,
Yeah, in
Yeah.
between white,
a
just
stone.
yeah.
Should be even darker, right?
Like antelope.
Like antelope.
Okay.
Bringing it back around.
Antelope. A beige color.
I'll make a motion then to issue the conditional use permit for the storage units on the property located by $1,000 Enterprises with the findings of fact, accepting the findings of fact, and conditions are no outside storage. And the covenants for the storage units be presented to the town before a building permit is issued.
Second.
Is there any other discussion?
I guess I just have to reiterate, my concerns. I think it's a really nice concept. I think it's a really nice structure. I appreciate what you presented to us. I'd like to see more of this type of thing moving forward with these types of projects. I just don't think it's something that's, you know, good for the, or good in that particular area on Highway 13, and it's something that's been discussed before. I think there's other areas of town that it would be better suited for. That's just my personal opinion, having had these discussions in the Community Development Authority arena.
Nick?
One question, for both the motion and the second, because this is a conditional use permit, we need a duration.
Term.
The request is for indefinite. Would you be building in a duration into your motion.
I can do that. Do you need me to restate the motion?
Nope, just, state a term, and
I
as
would
long as that's.
state that the conditional use permit be indefinite.
I agree with that. Second.
Okay, so the motion's on the floor to approve the conditional use permit. Seconded by, or brought by the chair, seconded by Jerry to approve this. Any other discussion?
Yes, please. When you say indefinite though, and he's talking phases,
That's just building,
That's just
indefinite
I,
the use.
okay.
Yes, so
Just
that's.
wanted to clarify further,
So
but,
this is a
okay.
conditional use
I
permit related to
understand.
use. Well, and it's not for you, it's more general for those watching as well. That this is, so there's two approvals here since this is for the use. There's a term put on all our conditional use permits. The request is for indefinite, that would allow, the storage unit to continue to be in allowed use through the, through this process, in perpetuity, right? If there's a change in use, that would require, potentially to come back if it's listed as a conditional use. If there's a change in use that changes the site plan, that would be, an amendment to the site plan.
Does not change though if there's a change in ownership,
Correct.
maintains with the property.
Okay, motion is on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carried with Lori objecting. Number 18, or I'm sorry, 13. We had too many notes in here. Discussion and possible recommendation to the town board, consideration of a site plan, plan of operation for Tauzan Dollar Enterprises LLC for the property located at section 17, town 20 north, range 6 east, town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number of 30-790.
Just one thought, if you put as a condition on the last one, the outside storage, that would definitely be applicable here as well. You probably wanna include that as well on your
Okay.
findings of fact.
Other ones that I took from our notes, would be, with complying with gateway standards. And if we added complying with gateway standards, that would handle the 50% of the front facing of all buildings to State Highway 13. That would include the paving piece of the first 200 feet. And then, in addition to that, if we wanted to put anything regarding that there would be no human habitation or no water run to the individual storage units.
Is the landscape plan that was presented in compliance?
Cause there's not really much parking on the site.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, the landscaping, like it's so many bushes per parking space and they easily cover that if this is, if they're gonna have 5 for 2. It's definitely within, landscaping design.
Do we have to cover if they rent out in another office in the office area?
You could say outside of that, outside of their office space, cause they did say they'd have a bathroom in that space too.
No, but I thought they said there was a chance that the possibility they could rent inside office space to another entity.
Would you rent to another entity inside the office, or just have a conference room for those two?
Well, it's gonna operate my real estate office, so, but I mean, I might not have it someday, so it'd be whoever the next owner would be or whatever.
Right, but you wouldn't lease to,
No,
It'd
that's no
be
plan, no.
yeah,
your office space.
Yes.
No, yeah,
Yep.
there's no plans to lease anybody.
Yep.
Right.
And is a permitted use?
A professional area, yes. Yeah.
I have a question, regarding the board, the one board here that shows the monument sign out front. Is that a true replication or what is expected of the sign? There? Is there room there to put different names or is that just,
It would be a, single tenant sign, not a multi-tenant sign.
okay, cause it shows right there that there might be multiple names versus one.
looks like 2. Would it be single tenant
Well,
or
it shows that there's like
It was
6,
designed, it was, yeah.
it shows like there's 6 spots there where there would be the ability to put 6 different names on there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Multi-tenant.
Oh,
So we can, you
Could
may
not see
wanna
that.
just add in, compliance with multi-tenant sign, cause
But what about my real estate office?
I guess it would be multi-tenant, including, the two businesses on site, and they would be compliant with our sign and billboard ordinance.
Let's see, that was presented.
Cause I'm trying to think in my head, multi-tenant sign and gateway is like 80 square feet total.
And this was presented as storage, so,
But professional, storage is a conditional use, right? Professional services is not a conditional use in B1, so
Correct.
there'd be no need to
okay.
present that. And it's clearly defined that it's an office on there, so.
Yeah, that would just be part of the site plan.
It's very relevant for the site plan, that's why I had asked the question kind of
Make sure.
as a sidebar, to the zoning administrator, that we weren't dealing with any other uses that, needed to be an additional conditional use permit. And I was told that we are not, so.
So the compliance with a multi-tenant sign is not a condition that we have to be concerned about?
No, I
That would
think
just
that
be
was,
sizes.
so
Okay,
I have 3 conditions. I have no outdoor storage, that the site, abide by gateway overlay standards and sign ordinance requirements, that there be no human, habitation or, water run to the units.
I'll make a motion to approve the site plan and site plan of operation for $1,000 Enterprises, including there's no findings of fact, sorry. But with the conditions, that there's compliance with Gateway Overlay District requirements, no outside storage, and no human habitation.
There is findings of fact.
Yep, there's.
Oh, there is? Okay, well, including
I
the
just-
findings of fact.
I have a quick question. No water run to individual units, but that doesn't exclude,
the office?
well, the office and water to, like, a connection to the outside of a building? Just curious, cause I feel like that'd be normal to have.
Like a hose spigot on the side of the
Yeah.
building? Oh, yeah, but it wouldn't be run to the individual unit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just clarifying.
So I didn't add that. It sounds like that's what everybody wants.
I'll second.
Okay, so
Are-
Jerry, to be clear, I'm gonna add the condition that there's no water for individual unit use
Right,
run.
just can be on the outside of the building.
I got a question. That one unit, we wanna make, can I get water to that first unit? Is that gonna be a problem?
This is kind of a little spot right here, glass.
That would be part of your office space.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that'd be included in the front area.
Okay,
We
For
don't have
the-
restrooms yet in this area.
well, that's why I didn't think it was gonna be a
And a
problem.
water
It'll be
hydrant.
part of the
Yeah.
office.
You're not selling that unit.
No.
No.
Yeah, okay.
Would you like me to add excluding office space?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion by Dan, second by Jerry to approve the site plan of operation for $1,000 Enterprises with the findings of fact, compliance with the Gateway District standards, no human habitation, and no water in the individual units, excluding the office,
No outdoor storage.
outside storage.
And compliance with the signage ordinances also.
Okay,
I got a question, am I subject to the 80 square feet?
I think, we just would have to look that up, but I think a multi-tenant sign, if that monument sign is in the gateway, is 80 square feet, yes.
And I think you did add that already, that it had to, with all the gateway overlay.
Is it 80 for a multi?
Multi-tenant monument sign shall not exceed 60 square feet.
Yeah, it's maximum, it's to be discussed later in this agenda, but it's,
Maximum sign area per business.
yeah, it sets a maximum sign area per business, but it does set a limit on multi-tenant signs, to 60 square feet.
Is it 80
So-
for the site, so they
so-
could have one on the building?
Correct. That's
Okay.
meaning you can have a wall sign and a sign out front as a monument sign, and the total area cannot exceed 80. But the monument sign, that's the multi-tenant sign, the total area on that sign cannot exceed 60. So you can have like a,
Like 6 by 10. And that would be split in half or 2/3. You're saying I can have 2 signs on that and a 6 by.
yeah, or you can have
And
a
I can
40 and a
and I
20.
can have another 20 on the building
You can get up to 80 for
total?
the total business, yes.
Okay. So if I had 60 out on the road, is that another?
So you can have 60 on the monument, on the multi-tenant monument sign, and then another 20 on your
20
building.
on the building.
Directional signs are not included in the square footage.
So like a 2 by 10 or whatever.
Okay, does somebody wanna repeat the motion, just so we all know what we're voting on?
I can, cause I.
Please.
Yes. So the motion was to approve the findings of fact with the additional conditions. No outdoor storage, that the site plan comply with gateway overlay and signage ordinances, that there's no human habitation or water run to the individual storage units excluding the office space.
I agree with that, yep.
Okay, so the motion was made by Dan, seconded by Jerry, to approve the site plan and plan of operation. Is there any other discussion?
Just a general comment that you're actually, this one is recommending to the town board. It's not approving.
Recommending to the town board.
So we'll go to the town board on the 17th.
17,
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion's approved. 3 in favor and 1 against. Okay, number 14, discussion of possible recommendation to the town board, consideration of proposed plan unit development, plan unit development project plan amendment relating to the property owned by Wisconsin Dunes LLC, Sand Valley Golf Course, revision to clarify the density of development within subdivisions.
Motion to recommend to the town board the, approval of the plan unit development project plan amendment by Wisconsin Dunes LLC.
Second.
We have a motion by Dan, second by Jerry to approve to recommend to the town board the
Proposed plan unit
proposed
development
plan
amendment.
unit development to
Project plan amendment.
project planned amendment to Sand Valley Golf Resort, Wisconsin Dunes LLC. Clarify the density of development in the subdivisions. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
That'll also go to town board on the 17th.
Number 15, discussion and possible action, review of B1 Business District and Gateway Overlay Corridor zoning district requirements and the site plan of operation for the Boat Barn LLC. Emily, I think this must be you.
So this item is being discussed due to a concern with a change of color of the siding and roof of the building, as well as the sign put up without a permit and not complying with the Gateway Overlay Corridor sign ordinance. A review of the project in question is included in the packet, along with minutes from the Plan Commission and Town Board meeting from when the project was approved and rendering of the building. And I included the same format of a memo that was in the last packet with commercial A conversation.
Has the owner been advised of these?
Yes,
What has been their response?
it was all in the memo.
Right, but
I can read the memo if you would guys would like.
for the record.
So the top section is ordinance, signs and billboards. The property owner was informed that there will be a discussion regarding the Boat Barn LLC at the November 8th, 2022 Plan Commission meeting, and he is welcome to attend. A review of the property file for 1106 County Highway D, Nacusa, Wisconsin 54457 was done. The site plan of operation for Boat Barn LLC, located in the B1 Business District and Gateway Overlay Corridor, received on December 7th, 2020. The attached was presented as part of the January 11, 2022 Plan Commission packet. There was no documentation stating the change of exterior color present in the property file. The property owner stated that this was mentioned verbally, no written documentation was provided. Also discussed was a sign placement without a permit. Application was received without payment. The property owner mentioned that payment was forthcoming. Applications are not reviewed without payment, and the The sign was placed and no payment has been received to date. The sign that was placed is a ground sign, which is not permitted in the Gateway Overlay Corridor. The property owner advised to inform him if changes are required after review by the Plan Commission. And I included definitions for ground sign and monument sign below.
Okay, let's start with the easy one. What do we do about the sign?
It's placed without a permit.
So what's our,
So there's no permit.
what can we do? Sounds like he's willing to work for us, work with us, he'll just pay the price, so what's the price?
I think if the property owner would bring the sign into compliance.
Yeah,
I
so
mean, that's what we
size-wise
want.
is,
Yeah.
there isn't a concern size-wise. The concern is that he's erected a sign without the permit.
Without a permit, and it needs to be changed to a monument sign, not a ground sign.
Then, I would recommend that be what your,
Does this,
Determination.
is this, the plan commission has to act on this? This isn't
no, but
something
it
that-
sounds like that's what he's asking.
It's,
Should there be any penalty involved? Rather than just having come into compliance? I mean, I don't know who's been here the longest, I know Emily wasn't, was there anybody else that's been fined for not complying with zoning?
Probably not for a sign, that I can think of. Looking at the town prosecutor, if he remembers
Yeah,
anything
I
coming
can't
through.
recall, one where there have been other matters where things have been done and then they kind of ask for forgiveness after.
How much is a sign permit?
$50, 100. On-site is $50, off-site is 100, so this would be $50.
Can we do
Now, you
90?
said that ground sign, that's a ground sign, it's not allowed. But
Correct.
yet in RTC and R1, B1, or B1 and B2, ground signs are permitted.
That's
He's in
right.
Gateway.
Gateway.
Gateway Overlay District does not permit a ground sign.
If the sign was more than 200 feet off of the center line of the roadway, it could be a ground sign, but it's within that gateway overlay.
So does he just need to move the sign?
No, it needs to be put on a.
It would be
a base.
behind trees if you put it back 200
Like
feet.
it would be visible from the road if he,
Yeah.
cause he has that embankment in the front.
I'd say give him 60 days to fix it, otherwise it's $100 a day,
Can,
the regular
alright, so
sign
what's,
permit.
So I think we can give a period of time and then it would be a citation if he hasn't gone forward with.
What's
with
the
getting
citation?
sign permit.
$250
Yeah, so it's
is
more
a
than-
typical zoning.
It's more than
Okay,
the
so I think that's what we were ultimately asking before.
Yeah, so the penalty is if he doesn't get a sign permit, then we would proceed with enforcement through citation, and it would be more than $100.
Well, he needs a permit, but he has to physically
change
alter
the
the
sign,
sign
too.
To pay and bring
Yeah,
it
you're not
in
gonna get the
compliance.
permit until you are in compliance, so.
can I ask some questions first here before you start talking penalties, please? Could you just hold on a second, please, with your thoughts? I have a question to follow up with, what Jerry said here, or piggyback on what Jerry said. With the gateway overlay, with the monument signs, how does that different with what like Papa Bears has, or Slice of Heaven, or, cause that kinda morphed into the gateway, so how is that different?
RTC does not have the same sign ordinance as Gateway. RTC, all of RTC, Rome Town Center allows ground signs, Gateway does not.
Okay,
I don't know why that ever happened. I thought we were setting up the gateway to be the same as
right.
Hometown Center.
And the way I read it, and I think that's where I started talking to you about the whole sign thing, and we needed to really look at how that happened, and so now are we gonna,
But they all have them on 13, don't they, for the most
They
part?
were put there prior to ordinance change, so
No,
they're not
But
conforming.
aren't they monument? Like the Dollar General is a monument sign,
Yeah.
yeah? Key Savings Bank is,
Caldwell Banker.
is a monument
banker.
sign?
And those were in
Yeah.
place before we updated our code.
I guess
somehow that happened, I don't know how, but.
I think I was saying the opposite. I was thinking the ones on D are ground signs and they were there prior to code. Yes.
But like when Hair Hut and the storage units updated their sign, they went to ground sign they went to a monument sign instead of a ground sign. So if the
But now the Quick Trip sign on the corner was brand new, not the hill, the one on the corner. That's not a monument sign, is it? Yes, it is. Trying to visually,
I can't picture it.
I know, I can't either, we drive by it like every other day, right? So, are we getting him first on the permit, or are we getting him on the fact that the sign is in violation of the code? And considering how many different violations we're looking at right now, I mean, it's one of the nicest signs, you know, I mean, what do we wanna really,
I think if we enforce the sign code, we gotta enforce it everywhere. We can't just tell him that he can have a ground sign, but then we made somebody else have a monument sign. Like, we can't make, $1,000 have a monument if we're not having this guy.
right, I mean, but plus, I think the biggest violation to start with is the fact that he didn't get a permit. That, to me, is the biggest problem, is the fact that he didn't get a permit. That's like just blatantly wrong. So that would be the first thing that I think,
Well, he's willing to pay that.
and if he's willing to pay it, then that's where we start. But I mean, when we start enforcing things that people did wrong, that were initially maybe our fault, how do we start with one person? Are we gonna back up with everybody?
I think you say, going forward, we are enforcing the ordinance, and then we enforce the ordinance.
If I may,
Yes, because I interrupted you, I'm sorry, but I
So,
just wanted to,
just,
I was I was stuck on what Jerry had said.
just to be clear, I think what we discussed was that he didn't get a permit and he needs to get a permit. We can't issue the permit unless the sign is in compliance. That's how we get to that, is once the permit gets taken out and applied for, it will be reviewed and made sure to be consistent with the code requirements, and that's where we'll address the sign that may not be in compliance or isn't in compliance. But the permit is, you're right, permit is the concern. At this point, he needs to get a sign permit.
Would you say he has to put the sign up first, then get the permit?
No.
Oh,
You
I'm
get-
confused
You
then.
have to get the sign permit, but he didn't.
Right, yes.
So now we're after the fact, but he needs to get a sign permit.
Part of
Or
the
the
sign-
permit requires a drawing of the sign, correct? So that's how the owner would
Right.
be advised that it doesn't comply.
Because I'm wondering if, in order to maybe possibly just save this person some money, if it's a hill and some bushes and we just need to move the sign back, would it
No,
be
you'd
with-
have to move it 200 feet.
Right. Right,
Then it's not visible.
That's gonna be in his
Well-
driveway access to the building.
true.
It's gonna be way
It'd
behind
be
the,
at the building.
yeah.
And it requires a permit.
Yes.
Well,
Right.
seriously, I mean,
Takes us back to the permit.
get the permit, it's gonna have a plan and a sign, a proposed sign. We'll review it and make sure that it's in conformance with the sign code. That's how
Okay.
this process works.
And in the meantime, does he get to keep his other sign up, or does he take his other
So-
sign down?
I see this going forward as we send him a letter saying your sign needs to be brought into compliance and the sign permit needs to be paid. If he chooses to move it back 200 feet, he moves it back, otherwise it's a monument sign.
Well, he's not gonna touch it, and I wouldn't if I owned it until I applied for my permit and gave you a drawing what I'm gonna do with it.
I agree,
I mean, he invested money in the sign, he's not just gonna tear it down.
exactly.
Well, I'd say he's gonna tear it down, but it's gotta be removed and
Just modified.
refastened somehow
It needs
to
be
the
refixed,
ground.
Yeah, but in a manner in which we approve of.
Yeah,
And
right.
That's the
He
factor.
already
needs a
knows
permit.
what needs to be done. I already contacted him. I showed him what a monument sign is and what it needs to be.
Okay, and has plans to do that verbally?
He is willing to based on if required by plan commission. That was his response.
Okay, yes.
And I say he's willing to have the conversation. He didn't say, yes, I'll go do it.
I wonder, considering, unfortunately, it's really unfortunate. It's a very nice sign. It's sad he didn't get the permit. I didn't realize the man didn't have a permit until I saw all this. And quite honest, I don't have his letter in my packet. I didn't look at the packet online, but I didn't have the letter.
This wasn't,
It's not a letter, it's a notes from our conversation with him.
was the memo not in?
No, I read what you
I got it.
read out.
Okay.
I didn't have it in my hard copy packet.
But
Okay, what do we need here? Do we need a motion or just general direction or what?
I think general direction is all you need.
I would say that he does need to get a permit, and then we'll discuss the rest of it from there once he gets his permit.
Oh,
What-
permit, in order to get the permit, he's gotta have a drawing of a legal sign. So
So-
he's gonna know then what he has to do.
Have him get the
Right.
permit. He'll know what he needs to comply to. If he chooses not to comply, then we're back here and we're having a different conversation. Right? Everybody good?
Yeah, and I was
So
at,
you're
I
going
was
ahead
at,
and I'm
Citations.
telling him he needs to get a permit.
And plan on having a monument sign.
And the sign has to conform to
Okay,
the requirements of the permit.
okay.
and I, not looking at my packet online, looking at a hard copy, was at a disadvantage, and I honestly thought that that sign was based on what we had in the Rome Town Center, and I didn't realize his sign was illegal. I thought his sign was fine the way it was, because it matched like what Papa Bears has, what Slice of Heaven has, what the Rome Meat Market has now, which, I don't know, but, so I didn't realize that that did not comply, so I would like a copy of that, please, if I could, or I'll get it from online now that I know it's out there.
the follow-up discussion to that though is on one of the next agenda items, if there are changes that are made to the sign and billboard ordinance, then that could be made. Maybe that's something that was an extensive ordinance when it was gone through.
Oh, we knew there was issues, cause we've had it on here for months, and we knew we wanted to talk about it.
Well, okay, but you're the one who wanted it on there.
Me,
So
Because
are
I
you
talked to
gonna
Emily.
are you gonna propose something to us that's gonna materially impact the situation we're talking about here?
the fact that both Jerry and I thought that this extended from the
Okay.
Rome Town Center into the Gateway Overlay District,
So
cause
if
we
you
were
don't
both
agree with
on there.
that and your position is to try to convince us of changing that, then maybe we should be doing what we're doing here now. I don't know.
I'm
You would
thinking,
still need the permit,
We
right?
still
he
need the
still
permit.
needs the permit,
So
so
maybe-
maybe,
But if we do force him to get, he needs the permit, but we're effectively forcing him to come into compliance with what is now. And if we go and change it 2 months later, boy, would I be pissed off if I was him.
well, let me put it this way, well, I was hoping we'd get to this point, so thank you. Just like we let somebody turn a fireplace store into Roam Away from Home, and we changed the ordinance to 40% from 30%, maybe that's what needs to happen here. Maybe we realize that we have an issue, and now we realize that we finally have time to look at our sign ordinance, and we knew we had issues where it is confusing, where I did have this conversation with Jamie and Emily both, and we're finally getting some time to, some breathing room without short-term rentals, and we can look at this. Maybe we get that caught up, at least get the gentleman to agree to pay for his permit and say, we're looking at this, and you do have a nice sign, and do we wanna do that? Say,
And you run the risk of pissing off everybody else who's replaced their signs. And
has anybody replaced their signs? Because they were out of compliance?
Not because of out of compliance, just because of general sign replacement,
Because they were old and needed to
they-
be replaced?
yes. Or they
So
wanted
we-
to update them for their.
So we need to hurry up and get this done.
So you brought up a good point where our code goes in a circle here. In Gateway Overlay District, it refers back to Rome Town Center,
Center.
which refers back to signs in RTC District.
Which is-
But we have its own Gateway Overlay Corridor category under signs and signs and billboards.
Which is where you and I talked about it
Where we
being
need to fix that.
confusing.
Yeah.
Exactly. So maybe we let him pay for his permit and give him and we make sure we do what we need to do to get this done at our next meeting.
And what you held up is what was in the packet, that's what we're reading from, that's. the-
Exactly, that's why I keep holding this up. We need to work on this.
Yeah, but there isn't an additional copy, that's what we were
Oh.
Yeah,
reading
that's
from.
it. That's the memo that explains the situation.
Oh, I thought this was for our, I'm all right. It's getting late. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry.
I was so confused.
So
I made the same
We're back.
packet.
We're back on track.
Nick?
So my question is,
I think it's time
so
for
I
chocolate
think
and wine.
the permit needs to be taken, we all agree to
Right.
that. Maybe then you.
I'm sorry,
hold-
Emily.
So he takes the permit, but part of this is directing the zoning administrator what to communicate, right? Because if she communicates that he needs to take a permit and he needs to be in compliance with the code, that's different than if we're reviewing potentially the sign code. So maybe he takes the permit out and proposes his sign, okay, then we hold on processing the permit, review sign code, and process the permit after that? I mean,
I'm confused on what I'm supposed to think here because the staunch defender of the Gateway Overlay District wants to make an exception that's not in compliance with the Gateway Overlay District.
Well,
No,
so
but listen,
Gateway Overlay
all right,
District
you know, one
doesn't,
of these days I'm just
isn't
gonna-
defined, we need to fix it. Because Gateway Overlay District, once you go under that part of zoning code, refers back to Rome Town Center, which refers back to signs in RTC district under signs and billboards, but signs and billboards also has a Gateway Overlay District section. So it refers to two sections for Gateway Overlay Corridor District.
So
And
in
that's
this
where
case-
it's,
Reasonable person's probably gonna say, well, I'm in Gateway Overlay, that's where my sign is, that's what I'm supposed to follow.
No,
but if you go, that's the thing though, if you go under Gateway Overlay District under zoning, it's gonna refer you to Rome Town Center,
how about
sign
this?
district.
How about just once?
I just went through
You
it,
give me
that's
a little
why.
bit of credit. I brought this to Emily's attention that the E code is very confusing. And like she said, it circles around and a normal person that goes out to the book and reads it goes back around and goes to sign and billboards, RTC, out to signs and back around again. So any person with half an education can even figure that one out. It's like, what am I supposed to do? Right, Emily? We talked about this early in the spring when you first started and then early in the summer, which is why it keeps going from agenda to agenda to agenda.
Okay, let's get back to the issue that we're talking about as far as the boat barn. We can all point fingers at each other for everything, but,
No, we're not pointing
well,
fingers.
I think we are. So let's get back to the boat barn. So what is Emily supposed to do with this guy?
I think we agree we will ask him to pay for the permit and tell him that we are further reviewing that sign ordinance as it relates to Gateway Overlay, and we will get back to him. But we will ask him to come in within the next 60 days with the $50 for the permit that wasn't completed.
Are we giving 60 days just to pay for it?
We can give 30 days, we can give 10 days.
I would say 30 is more than generous.
Yeah.
So 30 days to pay for the permit, and that we're reviewing the standards.
And ultimately, if as part of our review of the standards, because he's gonna ask, what does that mean? If our error would have permitted a sign like that to be established there, he's good. If we determine we have an error in the way our code is put together.
Or if we determine that we're comfortable with allowing ground signs and not monument signs within Gateway Overlay.
Well, it seems to me we ought to just eliminate that section under signs for the Gateway District. Cause it's conflicting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jerry. And Emily, if you thought
That's
it
the
was,
direction I'm looking for, when we get to that
Yeah.
piece. That's, I'm happy to have a conversation. I think the question or request was that we, review signs and gateway overlay and non-conforming. I think that was the direction I was asked to bring back and provide a report on. If the direction is from you all that I wipe it and you guys see the, the ordinance at the next meeting and we hold the public hearing, cause it's a zoning ordinance, and we move this through, then that's fine. If that's the direction I have from you,
I'm all in favor of that. I don't know about the rest of you, but
Go for it.
Yep.
it's too confusing the way it is.
that's all I wanted to do months ago, Jerry, thank you. And Emily, you know I wasn't pointing fingers at you, correct? We had that discussion.
So we got it.
Thank you.
so I think there's one other thing before we move on to the sign code piece, which I'll ask Ben for a little bit more clarification. It sounds like there's an issue potentially with the color of the building.
Yes, so included in the packet is the brown and blue building that was approved by Plan Commission. The owner of the Boat Barn LLC stated that there was mention of the color change verbally, but there was no written documentation provided.
Did you go back and watch the video by any chance in January?
No.
I think there might have been mention of potential shortages in building supplies impacting the color, but certainly it was not, the building will alternatively be white and black. So, I don't know what we do with this one.
Personally, I think it looks fine, but you got it pretty well hidden from the road anyway. I think the white looks a lot better than the blue that he presented originally.
I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, but here we are again.
And
Damned
the
if you do, damned if you don't.
roof is dark in color, which we would, the roof is the,
It's black. I mean, that's gonna be hot in there in the summer.
So the question is it an amendment to the site plan of operation where there's a change in the color? And I'll just pose another question before we answer that. Was there a change in color to Slice of Heaven? Are we requiring a change, is that, so I think maybe some of it is just a process piece, right? Because do we require him to do a change in his site plan? If we do, are we requiring every business that provides us this and you show it before the meeting and we don't have any documentation to show that we approved it? You see what I'm saying is, I just wanna make sure we're consistent in how we process these things, because I believe the color that was shown to you before the meeting was different than what was approved.
I
Correct?
think it's site plan for them, they just had said they would use natural colors. They had a different color selected and they did a test sample of it and they didn't like it, so they had picked a different natural color.
Okay.
I think another example of that would also be, we had discussed, the difference in tone of the roof for the meat market, that it would be 2 tones instead of 3 tones, and if the plan commission wanted to have that brought back, it wasn't viewed as a substantial change. I think the same thing with Slice of Heaven, if someone would have had a concern, but we didn't view, they were gonna paint the building, we didn't view that change in color as a substantial change.
I see. So it hinges on the substantial change. This is viewed as a substantial change, potentially. And so we potentially may require him to do a site plan of operation amendment. Okay.
If we would like them to do a site plan of operation amendment, because that does clear things up for the property file, cause what we presented in the packet is what's in the property file now. Would we, have we done that in the past where we have then recharged for that process to go through? Cause there's a $350 fee,
$300.
$300 fee.
Well, it's a public hearing, recommendation, town board.
Or would it be handled the same way I held up Antelope?
We were comfortable with Antelope.
We're comfortable with Antelope, are we comfortable with white and black? And then,
We would note that in the minutes and include the minutes from this meeting in the property file.
including the color, like, the color's already in the property file for Sisal Heaven, and then I brought the other one here.
Dan?
We'll defer to the chair.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
we've
not
been
gonna
here
say,
for
I'm
5
not gonna,
hours.
I'm
It's
not
getting
gonna,
kinda tiring.
well, I'm not gonna say anything because either I'll get laughed after or accused. But personally, I've thought the building was one of the nicest buildings that's been put up in a while, and it's a very nice sign, and I actually like it. So there.
I do too, I think the building's
Enough
very
of all of
attractive.
it, to be honest.
Well, then, but we have to,
Then we
here's the
can-
thing though, laws are laws, rules are rules,
I
ordinances,
understand that.
like, then we look like hypocrites, so.
Well, we've looked like hypocrites for the last how many months?
What,
If We're
Look at-
inconsistent.
Look what's out there compared to this. That looks a lot better than this.
Yeah,
I'm not disagreeing with you.
That's why the review is happening, and then we can rule the color change not a substantial change and put that into the property file, cause now we had that conversation, and now it'll be in the property file saying this color change was not substantial, doesn't need to go through another, amendment, and it's approved. That's how I view it.
And if we're comfortable with that, we note that in the minutes, we haven't taken a motion for the other ones.
And my concern was just that we're consistent.
Yep.
That's it.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, then we would note, Linda, we would note for the minutes that it's not a substantial change to the site plan of operation, and include these minutes in the file. Mr. Chair, could I recommend that the other items be moved to the next?
I think that'd be a good recommendation at this point.
Yes, I agree.
So then the next meeting date would be set for December 13th, 2022 at 4:00 PM, and the meeting is adjourned at 7:27.
6:27.
6:27.
Oh my god.
Gotta change that clock.